Well, I think it's pretty safe to say that the current Marvel Cinematic Universe is a bit of a mess. Obviously, it was one of a kind thing that we'd never seen in movies before, and then Endgame happened, and instead of just, rebooting the entire universe or taking a break, they decided to keep going. I guess you could say To Be Nice has been met with mixed results. Some movies better than others. I think Guardians 3 was a pretty good movie, and I think you've had a few here and there. But for the most part, a lot of them have been misses, which has left Marvel themselves saying that they are basically revamping what they're doing. And one of the things they're revamping is an actual movie that is undergoing its second and maybe even third set of reshoots as this movie's budget continues to climb and climb. And that movie is Captain America Brave New World, as it's also undergone some name changes, as initially this was Captain America New World Order. I have an article here from Hollywood Reporter that's talking about some new reshoots after some test screenings didn't go so well. So we're going to go through this and give some thoughts on it here. So hi, I'm Jared with Capture the Magic. And again, this is from the Hollywood Reporter. And they're saying Brave New World, Captain America Brave New World's reshoots underway with new pages and new mystery character. It says Giancarlo Esposito joins the cast for part of a 22-day shoot as a villainous character. So Sam Wilson is back in action this week in Atlanta, where Captain America Brave New World began a round of additional photography with a new actor now in the cast. Giancarlo Esposito, who was for a few weeks had hinted at his involvement in a Marvel Studios project, is officially on the call sheet in an undisclosed but sources say villainous role, which would make sense. He's a very, Giancarlo Esposito, I think I'm saying the name right. If I'm wrong, I do apologize. Great actor, usually plays villains, so it's one of those roles where he's kind of, it does fit him, but I'll have to wait and see if it's in a good movie or not. The shoot will run 22 days, according to insiders. Among the added elements will be some new action sequences. Brave New World has been operating under a hazy shroud ever since it wrapped principal photography in the spring of 2023. The movie, which stars Anthony Mackie as hero Sam Wilson, takes up the mantle of Captain America. First off, I hate this whole mantle thing. This is one of the issues that Marvel is running into, is looking at these characters as if Captain America, it's a mantle. Anybody can be it. And yes, in the comics, this was the case. But in the comics, Bucky became Captain America, and there was a time period where Sam Wilson was as well. I think they would have been a much better direction to allow Bucky to have a more of a redemption arc after Winter Soldier, to be able to, have the mantle of Captain America. But honestly speaking, though, Captain America is Steve Rogers. And that's the thing that most people, if they're going to a Captain America movie, technically this is the fourth Captain America movie, but it's really not, because it's not Steve Rogers. And that's something that the comics have showed us, and I think we're seeing that in the movies as well. And I think it's going to have some issues. Obviously, we had the show, Captain America and the Winter Soldier. I forget what they called it. Anyways, it was Bucky and Sam Wilson. And that, in my opinion, was not a very good movie. And that's supposed to be sort of a lead up into this movie as well. It says, barely escaped the direct impacts of the writers and actors strikes. Marvel's other production, Thunderbolts, Deadpool and Wolverine, and Blade were forced to shut down or delay production, with the latter still not making it to filming. I don't think Blade is ever going to get made at this point. I would be shocked if it did. Even though it managed to wrap principal photography before the strikes, Brave New World's post-production was hampered and delayed. As the actors' strike ended in November, Marvel moved Brave New World's release date from July 26th, 2024 to February 14th, 2025, which also kind of shows you as well, maybe they have lowered expectations for this, because typically February is not a time period when you have a banger of a movie coming out, but which gave execs time to hone in on what they needed to get out of the reshoots and take in feedback from test screenings. Matthew Orton, who previously worked on Marvel's Moon Knight, not a great look either, was hired to work on the new pages in December, writing over the winter. Despite reports of multiple reshoots on the movie, so far this is the only one. I don't think that's the case, actually, because if we look here, so I have another article here from World of Real, and they're saying this is the third round of reshoots for this. So this is only a few months away, but Marvel isn't done with their endless tinkering on Captain America Brave New World. It says, yes, Scooper Daniel Rickman is reporting that a third round of test screenings for the film recently took place, and once again, the reaction wasn't what Marvel had hoped for, and more changes are being done on the film. It's not clear how extensive this new additional photography is or whether director Julius Onah is present, but there's got to be an end to all this, right? The film gets released a little over 2 months from now. Recently, a rep close to Brave New World production wrote to me and described the additional photography as standard in the business, especially on large films requiring pickup. This is the third round of reshoots on Brave New World. Earlier in the year, Marvel got to see a rough cut of the film, but felt the action scenes were not big or satisfying enough, and a poorly rated test screening didn't help. Word was that the 3 major action sequences were being reshot from scratch. It does not appear to be as extensive as the reshoots that faced Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which lasted 6 weeks, nor the expensive and extensive reshoots endured the Marvels. In fact, one insider says Brave New World will cost significantly less than the Marvels overall. The movie is a political action thriller, tonally at least, is akin to Captain America and the Winter Soldier. Captain America and the Winter Soldier is my favorite Marvel movie, so that's a very high mark. We'll just say that. I have my doubts that it is going to be anywhere near that movie. The 2014 film that starred Chris Evans and introduced Mackie to the MCU. At this year's CinemaCon, Marvel head Kevin Feige promised no aliens, no alien invasions, no time travel before showing off some footage. He also called it a relatively grounded action film. So either way, this also goes to the issue Marvel has had in terms of when they make their movies, is they have this habit of going back and reshooting things. And this is one reason why the Marvel budgets continually are very high. Obviously, they use lots of CGI, but they continually go in and do these reshoots. But when you're on your third set of reshoots on a movie, which I would argue most people are not going to be very excited for, because again, Captain America is Steve Rogers. Now, I like the character of Sam Wilson and Falcon. I liked him as Falcon. I thought him and Captain America together were really cool. I thought him and Bucky together were interesting. But to have him as Captain America, and some of these scenes you're seeing where he's fighting, and again, they're bringing in Red Hulk, and I think most people, myself included, still want to see more of a redemption arc for the actual Hulk, considering in Endgame, I think he was basically pushed to the side as he became Professor Hulk. So we've never really even seen the culmination of the actual Hulk character. Now we're bringing in another Hulk, and it's just, it's becoming, again, like we're so far down the rabbit hole of the Marvel stuff here in terms of, talking about comic book material. But at the end of the day, this is one of those things where if this was Captain America with Steve Rogers and Falcon with him, I think people would be insanely excited for this. I think people would want this. And there are rumors that Chris Evans is going to have a cameo in this. I wouldn't be surprised by it. But also, I think it's really clear at this point, these characters are not mantles. These characters are who they are. It's the same thing with any of them. You can't take Wolverine and it's a mantle and somebody else takes up the mantle of Wolverine or Superman or any of these. This is part of the thing with comic book movies. They have tried this in the comics as well, and it's never really worked. And I think that when you're doing it on this level, it's just one of those things where it just doesn't make a lot of sense. You're on your third round of reshoots. Who knows where the budget for this is going to be? If this on the third round of reshoots, this probably means the budget's somewhere in the $400 million range. I wouldn't be shocked to hear that. If that is the case, it's near that. You can basically say to make its money back, you're going to have to say double that from the box office, because when it comes to the box office, they do a split. So if a movie makes $1 billion, it's not like the studio gets $1 billion. They have to cut that with the theaters, and it depends on, in certain countries they get a bigger or lesser cut. Just really depends on where it's at. But basically, if it is a $400 million budget, you add in the marketing on top of that, which is probably at least $100 million. So you could be looking at a total budget, including marketing, of $400 to $500 million, which does mean to make your money back or make any profit, you're at least going to have to hit $1 billion. I don't think this movie is going to be the case, unless it just happens to be a fantastic movie. But if you're already seeing more reshoots due to negative test screenings, which has happened a few times with this movie, doesn't really paint a great picture of confidence, especially when Marvel, they've been saying they want to turn things around. They brought Robert Downey Jr. back at Comic-Con to show him off as coming back as Doctor Doom. I have questions about that, but that is a big name and bringing him back, and more than likely he's going to end up back as Tony Stark as Iron Man, and you're going to do Secret Wars toward the end of all this. And really, it even just sets to where Marvel's at. Like, who are the Avengers at this point? Like, nobody really even knows where things stand in the MCU. You had Deadpool, Wolverine, but I would argue that was a one-off thing because people love the character of Deadpool. They love Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. You just put those two characters together in a movie. The movie wasn't that great in terms of a story, but it was really enjoyable seeing those two actors and those characters working together and doing things in a movie that you've wanted to see them do before. I don't think that has any sort of transferability over here to Captain America, Brave New World. More than likely, when you see these massive amount of reshoots, you've seen this with even the Star Wars movies, as Rise of Skywalker. The rumor there was that movie cost almost, upwards over $500 million with all the reshoots that it did. So Disney has had an issue that has been Marvel as well, which is these movies are costing too much money. When you have a movie out the gate every single time, whether it's animated movie or action movie or whatever, at very least is $250 million. That sets it up to where at the very minimum, if it's there, it has to make around $500 million, and it doesn't give you any leeway. So if movie does really well, you still make money. And when the Marvel movies were really going, most of them were making $1 billion or close to it, so they were making money. But now that they have these expanded budgets, it gets inflated, more reshoots. You're just setting yourself up, like you're basically just starting out in a hole trying to, make this movie make money. I just don't see this happening. I don't think there's any real desire to see more Sam Wilson as Captain America. Sam Wilson doesn't have super soldier serum. I'm not really sure how you're even going to make it somewhat believable in a comic book world that he could even have a fight with the Hulk or any version of a Hulk at this point. So I won't be totally surprised if this movie gets pushed back a bit further because if they do these random reshoots, they get more test screenings that are negative. I think Disney at this point isn't going to scrap it. I know some people out there saying that, they should do what Warner Brothers did and how they scrapped Batgirl. I don't think they're going to do that. I think that they're going to release this movie because they've just made too much noise about it. You got too many bigger actors in this. Now you got Giancarlo Esposito in here. So it very well could still come out in February. I won't be shocked if they push it back, trying to release it more toward the summer of 2025. But as of now, a third round of reshoots is not a great sign for this. I guess we'll have to wait and see how this ends up being. But none of the trailers that I've seen or anything has me really, as somebody, again, who read comics as a kid, and I loved the MCU initially, nothing has really pulled me in outside of a few movies here and there out of the recent MCU, and I don't think this movie is really going to change that, at least for me speaking, but I don't know how everybody else feels about that. But either way, that's going to be it, though, for this video. If you like this video, please like it and subscribe to the channel, as we do lots of coverage here of theme parks and pop culture. And let us know in the comments if you're excited for Captain America: Brave New World. And until next time, we will see you later.